Okay, so in order to ensure the value and the legacy of collection projects, this is going to involve trying to make something intangible, like a storage of knowledge and information, into something tangible, so that other people can understand what it is. This involves three main areas of focus. So cataloguing, so that access can be provided, preservation, so that long-term access can be maintained, and promotion, so that people know we're there and what we have. So the first would be cataloguing. This would involve close liaising with our metadata team in the library, and also the systems team for any kind of bulk manipulations of data, or importing large amounts of data. So yes, making sure that everything is catalogued to an adequate standard so that things can be found. And this of course means training across the Institute and within the library itself, so that everybody understands how to interrogate what we have in the collection, interrogate the database, and explore what we have. And then across to obviously providing the same for new users in things like inductions, and I'm going to come back to inductions in a little bit. The second area is preservation. So basically making sure that everything is housed in the right way, that it's located in the best environment possible, that it's monitored regularly, and that it's appropriately handled. So this would involve liaising with our colleagues in special collections in order to deliver training to staff who have interaction with the collections, so that they know how to handle things appropriately to prolong their life. And also a second way of preserving things, obviously, which comes with its own legacy built in, is digital preservation. So for example, we could join up and collaborate with publishers or online libraries, so that our collection has more access. It gives us more visibility. It also improves our reputation. The more people we work with, this improves our relationship between various different organisations. And teaming up with something like an academic research project or a PhD research project, this would also bring with it its own literature, which comes on to how we could start to share this information. So literature that goes alongside a research project like that could be published in a library journal, for example, to reach other library colleagues. And so these would have a sort of limited readership, but it could also be possible to explore whether maybe we could have a feature in something like Sight and Sound. I think that one of the things that I think would be really nice to do is to take items which relate directly to the library collection, even things like these dry listings and holdings, and mark them digitally on the catalogue to separate them into a library history collection, because I think the history of the collection itself is very important to be documented. And even things like this would provide a snapshot of how the library was at a particular place in time. Also, items in the collection such as whole publications, books that have been written about the history of the BFI. I think it would be nice to put these items together, and to also make sure that projects that we do are documented properly. And so even if they're not physically bound or anything like that, that they're preserved and archived digitally, so that people can trace back the history of the collection and how it evolved, so they can understand its value when they come to interpret it in the future. So moving on to the promotion of the collection, which obviously depends on who we want to reach out to. So it's obviously important for us to tell people what we're doing and what we have. So projects is actually a really good way to publicise ourselves, because it tells the story in itself. This is really, I mean, what we want to do is reach out to everybody from our own BFI colleagues to people who probably don't even know us. They've never even heard of us. So what we're trying to do is increase visibility and tell people what we're about. So this is about producing our own content that can tell people who we are, what we do, and why they might want to come and check out our collections. So I'm using the example of social media as a way to do this, because it has probably the widest reach possible, different demographics for different platforms. So that's something that we could think about sharing across multiple platforms. I'm using the example of a blog because I could talk all day about blogs. I'll try not to, but I think that they're really, really beneficial for many reasons. Firstly, they're a really good way of documenting what you're doing, because they are automatically archived chronologically, so you can go back and see what you've done in the past. And other people who are looking at the blog, you can tag them, you can categorize them. So if they are particularly interested in a certain type of content, they can easily move between different posts that contain similar content. I have to say this, but I am an accomplished photographer, so I'm quite happy to provide visual content. I'm very good at finding ways to represent things in a sort of narrative fashion. So even in my own photography blog, which I've used the example of there, I did sort of, before and after images explaining what I did in the editing process. I'm going to talk a little bit about how the British Library use their blog, because they have a variety of blogs for different areas of their work, and they have one specifically for collection care. So they base their blogs on their website, and they always accompany them with images. They're never too long and wordy. They're well referenced, and they're easily searchable, so in the same way they're tagged and categorized. And another good thing about a blog is that a reader to it can just hit a button and share it on social media themselves, so that they're already taking it into a different arena on a different platform themselves, just by their own readership. But also, if once you've got the content of the blog, it could also be sent out as the content of an email newsletter to a specific group who have signed up to it, or just instantly shared across different platforms. This is just an example how British Library really understand the different social media tools they use. Their branding is always very consistent, and that I would urge you to have a look at what they do with their Instagram. What I've screen grabbed on the right here is a little mini slideshow above their the top of their profile. It's very interesting. I urge you to check that out. So they really understand their tools, and they're not shy of using video, which would probably scare the life out of many of our colleagues, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be somebody talking to camera like this about the collections, even though that's a great idea. They also have things like a playlist on how to use their library, so basically a virtual induction. So coming back to inductions, you could even have a little series of videos on how to search the collection, virtual tours of the collection behind the scenes, how to use library equipment. You could have all kinds of things, and you don't have to necessarily show anybody's face. You can do it in all kinds of interesting ways, and also they don't have to be shared on social media. This could be something that could be archived for training purposes for staff as well. I've put the little Film Academy thing there because I think, we're the British Film Institute, so producing little short films like this could be something that we could get more people involved in. I think that could be quite fun, to make them just look that little bit more professional. And also yeah, they can be used as training videos and archived in our own collections. So they can be used for training across the site, and even across organisations. The Americans are so good at this. Libraries in America, even little ones, have been putting their tutorials and promotional videos and things like that online for ages. I have watched many a cataloguing talk by, you know, a little old guy in glasses sitting in Minnesota somewhere. um, so I think this is something that could really be utilised in terms of what we can do to create our own content in the library to draw people in and explain what we do. British Library aren't shy about it. And I will just end by recommending this beautiful little film, which is really nicely done. So just really another example. I mean, these are just all examples of things that I think would be at our disposal and not too costly to achieve. But something like this is really lovely, so go check it out. Library Preservation at Harvard. It's much more exciting than the title makes you believe. But it's really nicely done. It's a 6-minute video. It's on YouTube, and it's really lovely. I think it'd just be a really good example of the kind of ways that we can tell stories with what we're doing here, and ensure that our collection is valued and used.